It was just confirmed that for the first time ever, several people here in the United States were given financial compensation by the U.S. government for the injuries that they sustained from the COVID vaccine. Specifically, according to new data that was put out by the Department of Health and Human Services, a whopping 3 individuals have received compensation through one of the federal government's injury compensation programs, the one that's specifically known as CICP, the Countermeasures Injury Compensation Program. And in terms of the dollar amounts that these individuals received, well, you might be a little bit surprised. And by the way, I hope that if you appreciate content like this, you do take a super quick moment to smash those like and subscribe buttons, which forces the YouTube algorithm to share this information out to ever more people. Now, when you scroll down a bit on the data that was submitted by the government, here's what you find. One person who suffered anaphylaxis, otherwise known as allergic shock, received a fat $2,019 check, while 2 other people who suffered from myocarditis following vaccination received smaller amounts. One person got $1,582, while the other one received a stunning $1,032.69. And notice something. Based on the extremely simplified way that the data is presented, you can't know which vaccine manufacturer it was, nor who the individual was. You only know the injury and the dollar amount. Regardless, even though the sums are obviously quite small, this is still a monumental first step, given the fact that since late 2020, when the COVID vaccines were first introduced, all the way up until now, this is the first time that the U.S. government has paid people who were injured. Now, in terms of how these relatively paltry sums are calculated, under the CICP program, people who received a vaccine-induced injury receive compensation for 2 separate things. The first is unreimbursed medical expenses, and then the second is lost income. However, according to Mr. Wayne Rode, who published a book called The Vaccine Court, these 3 particular payouts appear to only be for medical expenses. Here's what he told us here at the Epoch Times, quote, "These amounts are so low that you can credibly assume that this was just only for unreimbursed medical expenses and that's it. It's unconscionable what they're doing, but that's this program." And indeed, when you keep that in mind and you scroll through some of the other payments, such as the people who developed Guillain-Barré syndrome due to the H1N1 vaccine, well, a lot of them received payouts that were tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, some people even received millions of dollars. Although, as you can see, other people received sums that were as low as $30. Now, we here at the Epoch Times, we did reach out to the Health Resources and Services Administration, which is the agency that runs this program, in order to get clarification on these sums of money. But as of right now, they have yet to get back to us. Regardless, there is something else that's really important to highlight here, which has to do with the fact that there are actually 2 different compensation funds here in America. The first one is the one that we have been talking about, the CICP, the Countermeasures Injury Compensation Program. The second is the VICP, or the Vaccine Injury Compensation Program. And so right away, looking at those 2 programs, you might pose the obvious question. Why doesn't the VICP cover these vaccine-induced injuries? After all, the program is specifically designed for vaccine injuries. It even has the word vaccine in its name. Well, here's where things get conveniently tricky. Because after the COVID National Emergency Declaration was first issued by President Trump all the way back in March of 2020, the COVID vaccines fall under the category of countermeasures, and therefore the CICP is the only venue where Americans can get compensation from the federal government. And to understand that a little bit better, all you need to do is head on over to the frequently asked questions section of the VICP website, and there's a question there regarding the COVID vaccine. Here's what it says, quote, "Will the National Vaccine Injury Compensation Program, or the VICP, provide compensation to individuals injured by the COVID-19 vaccine?" And their answer is this, quote, "COVID-19 vaccines are covered countermeasures under the Countermeasures Injury Compensation Program, the CICP, not the National Vaccine Injury Compensation Program. Covered countermeasures must be qualified pandemic or epidemic products or security countermeasures or drugs, biological products or devices authorized for investigational or emergency use." Meaning, in plain English, that despite the fact that the COVID national emergency has officially ended, and despite the fact that all the way back in 2021, the FDA gave their official approval for the Pfizer vaccine, people who are vaccine injured can still only get compensation from the CICP because, for whatever reason, the COVID vaccine is still technically being regarded as a pandemic countermeasure, at least when it comes to giving people financial compensation. And this distinction, it really does matter, which becomes quite evident when you compare these 2 different programs, the CICP and the VICP. The VICP is funded directly by Big Pharma. They pay a 75-cent tax on each vaccine dose that they administer. The VICP covers more categories of injuries. The VICP pays out more money. People have a longer time to file their claims, and they can even have their attorney fees covered. However, the CICP, by contrast, is funded by you and me, the American taxpayers. They have significantly less categories of injuries that are covered. And I should mention that for the COVID vaccine, the actual list of injuries that are covered is not made public. The CICP pays out less money to the injured. There's less time to file. And if you need the services of an attorney, well, that's on you. Furthermore, while the VICP is an actual judicial process where you have a special master of the U.S. Court of Federal Claims making a decision regarding your compensation, the CICP is actually just an administrative process, wherein you have a bureaucrat at the Department of Health and Human Services deciding whether or not you get compensation. And best of all, while the VICP has a judicial appeal process, meaning you can appeal your decision with a judge, the CICP does not. You can beg them for an administrative reconsideration, but that's about it. And for some odd reason, the COVID vaccine, which tens of millions of Americans across the whole country were quite literally forced to take in order to keep their jobs and participate in public life, well, it's covered not by the VICP, but by the CICP, which to this day has given out exactly 3 compensation payments for a grand total of about $4,500. Very cool. However, all these facts and figures and numbers, they kind of have the effect of hiding the true human pain of being one of the people in line to get compensation. And so let me read you a short excerpt from an article that was published in the British Medical Journal, which highlights the difficulty, the real human story of people who find themselves in this situation trying to get compensation. Quote, "My toes move constantly, 24 hours a day, uncontrollably back and forth." That's a quote from Mr. Chris Dreisbach, a 44-year-old attorney who was admitted to the hospital with debilitating neurological symptoms after a second dose of Pfizer's mRNA vaccine in March of 2021. "I often spend at least 4 hours a day in my bathtub because a hot bath is the only way I can turn down this electrical sensation that pulses through me. The cognitive issues are worse. I used to pride myself on being able to get up in a courtroom and think on my feet. Now I have this brain fog. It's embarrassing." The article continues. From his hospital bed, Mr. Dreisbach began researching compensation schemes, only to discover that the U.S.'s National Vaccine Injury Compensation Program, the VICP, was not available to people injured by COVID-19 vaccines. Instead, he was forced to lodge a claim with a more costly, opaque, and less generous system, meaning the CICP. However, the story actually gets a lot deep. Sir? Hello? Hey Roman, it's me, calling you with the help of today's sponsor, Patriot Mobile. Listen, for years now, we've just had to put up with the fact that our wireless providers are funneling millions, or in some cases billions of dollars to all these causes that we don't necessarily agree with. But now there's an actual solution. Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider that offers dependable nationwide coverage on all 3 major networks, so you can get the best possible service in your area, no matter where you live, without all the propaganda that's being pushed by these different companies that are effectively destroying this country. When you make the switch to Patriot Mobile, you're supporting things like free speech, the sanctity of life, the Second Amendment, as well as all of our veterans, first responders, and cops who essentially make the country what it is. And best of all, their 100% US-based customer service lines, well, they make the switch super simple. And so either click on the link below this video or head on over to patriotmobile.com/Roman and use promo code Roman to get free activation today. That way, today, you can get awesome wireless service while at the same time having a clean conscience, knowing that your money isn't actually being funneled to all these causes that you don't necessarily agree with. Again, the link will be down there in the description box below. Check him out, and now let's have him back to the studio. Now, in terms of the number of people like Chris who are still working through the CICP system in order to get their compensation, well, here's a breakdown of the numbers. As of April 1st, 8,133 applications have been submitted to the CICP program, alleging that they've experienced either injury and or one of their relatives experienced death from the COVID vaccine. Now, already hundreds of these applications have been flatly denied due to either a lack of sufficient medical records and or some kind of a problem that the health officials in the agency found with the application. Still, at the moment, there are quite literally thousands of applications pending review. However, as of today, a grand total of 23 individuals have been determined to meet the standard for compensation, including the 3 people who already received their money, as well as 1 person who was deemed eligible for compensation, but apparently did not have any medical costs and or lost income, and so his compensation was a cool $0. Meaning that at the moment, you have 19 people who have been found eligible by the CICP programmed for compensation and are now awaiting their super fat checks. In terms of when they'll get that money, it's not exactly clear. Regardless, if you'd like to go deeper into anything that we discussed in today's episode, including the distinction between the CICP and the VICP, I'll throw all my research notes down into the description box below this video for you to check out. And then lastly, as I mentioned in yesterday's episode as well, if you head on over to Epoch TV, we just published an awesome documentary called Altered Humans, How Biotech is Changing Who We Are. It's a movie that delves relatively deep into the sort of recent innovations in gene editing, in reproductive technologies, as well as what I can only refer to as longevity innovations. And it explores the questions of what all these new advancements in technology will mean to the very question of what it means to be human. Here's a trailer for that documentary.
Medicine has moved from making us well to making us better than well.
Bigger, faster, stronger, smarter, to even make human beings, in a sense, superhuman.
The big product of the 21st century are going to be bodies and minds.
If you take a genetic editing, just as an example, it's you who are changed.
This new gene editing technology known as CRISPR is to genetics and genetic technologies what the atomic bomb was to physics.
It's like doing surgery with an axe.
We're taking genetically modified organisms and we're injecting them in little kids' arms. We just shoot them right into the vein.
It's experimental for a reason. If you want to be a lab rat, go for it. I was.
It's not for you. None of these things are for you. They don't exist for the good of humanity. That was not the main point.
We simply cannot be dismissive of our place as human beings in this world.
People that the gods wish to destroy, they give enormous power. And these guys are seeking enormous power.
I think we are heading towards the upgrading of Homo sapiens into gods.
That's why I think it's the biggest scam of all time. It is the biggest scam of all time, and we're living in it.
If you'd like to check out that documentary, as well as the plethora of other great content that we have over on Epoch TV, the link will be right there at the very top of the description box. All you have to do is click on that link and head on over to Epoch TV, where you can watch the documentary right away on a great platform that, unlike other platforms, don't stifle free speech. Again, that link will be right there at the very top of the description box. I hope you check it out. And then until next time, I'm your host, Roman from the Epoch Times. Stay informed. Most importantly, stay free.